Mark, this isn't just $180,000 in cash, is it?
No, not in cash. These are in RSU, so restricted stock units. So the way it works is they'll give these grants out in January, so about a month from now, and they will vest every year annually for 4 years. So that 180 divided by 4, there's some people reporting under 50,000, some people in the 60s, 80s, 90s. It's really a long range between that about 50 to 180. And these are going out to individual contributors, so people without direct reports in many cases. These are individual engineers working on products like Apple's upcoming mixed reality headset, working on silicon engineering, the chips that now power the Mac, the iPhone, iPad, and all of Apple's devices. A small subset is also going to software engineering, individual contributors, as well as people in the operations department. These bonuses are out of cycle. These are random and unusual in many cases. People receive them and were taken aback, surprised. These are not part of the normal compensation packages. This is not something that I believe Apple has done before. And this is really an effort to retain key talent. Apple is, losing talent right now. There are more than usual number of people leaving. People don't want to eventually return to the office. There's other companies like Meta, Google, who are going to be more lax about their office return, policies in the middle of next year. Meta is paying out base salaries that in many cases are much higher than the base salaries that Apple and others are paying out. And they have been aggressively recruiting Apple engineers given their shift to hardware in the so-called metaverse. So this is an effort to sort of stop that and retain the key people that push out these products and are really core to developing the Apple devices on an annual basis.
Yeah, Mark, you've reported on defections from Apple's self-driving car team in recent months, as well as this most recent news, of course. I'm wondering if this is going to be enough to get people to stay at the company, because you did say that there are higher base salaries at companies like Meta, for example.
Yeah, so the hope for Apple, at least the management giving out these RSU stock bonuses, that this will offset some of the recruiting being done, at least for a period of time, from Meta and other companies. I mean, 100,000 to 180,000, 50,000 is even a lot of money, and in many cases that could help, match or offset the higher base salaries that Meta is offering. And if you look at Apple stock, obviously they're nearing that $3 trillion threshold. These RSU bonuses are only going to become more valuable as Apple's stock continues to rise. Obviously, some of the price targets we're seeing is that there will be a rise in Apple stock price. These 100K, 180K, 50K, RSUs could, eventually at some point be worth double than they are today.
Mark, talk to us about the other ways that Apple can actually pay its employees. We're talking about time off. We're talking about perhaps working from home, a more flex schedule. Where does that kind of fit into all of this in a market that is very hot when it comes to finding a job right now, and a market where a lot of other big tech names, I'm thinking Amazon, are dealing with unionization, for example?
Yeah, for decades, the perks that Apple has offered employees in many cases, are not as substantial as you might see from Meta or Google. Steve Jobs liked to frequently say, obviously 10 plus years ago, that you have to buy your own lunch at Apple, right? Whereas Google and Meta are companies that, provide free lunch. I know that's a simple thing, but, that's important to, a lot of the engineering talent. But in terms of the normal perks that you're going to expect from a company, 401k, vacation, health benefits, obviously these RSU bonuses are, higher in many cases that these other companies are. So Apple, in terms of employee benefits, is extremely generous, even down to their retail employees. If you recall, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when all of the Apple retail stores globally were shut for several months, those employees were still being paid, and they were able to work from home as customer service agents and for online sales. So they have been fairly good to their employees, but employees are also, at the same time, not happy with the company, not happy with some of the leadership or the management. They have been feeling underpaid on base salaries compared to Meta when they're seeing some of their coworkers get offered these gigantic pay packages. You're also seeing an employee concern about return to office plans and having to work in the office if you're a hardware engineer during this variant, right? They're expecting hardware engineers to be back in the office either 4 days per week or full time with the deadline sometime mid next year. They're saying it's a date not yet to be determined, but they're aiming for mid next year. You're seeing all employees needing to be in the office at least 3 days per week, whereas you see other companies that are going to be going fully remote for many of those roles. So what we're seeing is a sea change where Apple may need to up some of its benefits in addition to this money to retain their top engineers.